Joshua Cohen, welcome to CEO Stories. You're the founder of Pinpoint, and you have a ton of traction behind you. You have some celebrity investors. You have really, really, really impressive clients. And I want to understand. You're fairly young, and you've been always kind of pushing yourself at like every stage of life. And I want to understand why. Why do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. I think it's super interesting. Like people always ask, like, why are you a founder? Like, why did you start a company? And a lot of people give what I think is a taboo answer of like, I was like, I knew I needed to do this since I was a young kid and things like that. And although I always have been very entrepreneurial and like I always kind of have thought about these sort of things, I think it wasn't until a few years ago where I really realized like that Steve Jobs quote, the world was built by people no smarter than you or I, like it's genuinely true. I think a lot of people just go through their daily lives and they go through the motions and they don't realize that they're actually capable of greater things. So my story is pretty interesting. I was, pretty entrepreneurial in college, started a clothing brand after college, worked at Google for a bit.
Wait.
And then
Let's slow down there. So this clothing brand in college, why did you start that?
Yeah. Honestly, just because I had that entrepreneurial bug in college. I wouldn't say I like fully had it growing up, but then once I got to college, I kind of like knew in the back of my mind that things were easier to build. And this was, 2015, 2016, but things were easier to build then.
Like drop shipping was a whole big thing.
Yeah, like I was definitely like on the trend. I also like I loved Shopify. Like once I kind of heard about it, I like thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like I'm a big fan of Harley and Toby and what they've built there. And like I really thought the whole premise behind it was really interesting. So it was more experimental than anything. Like I kind of just wanted to get my hands dirty and like figure out what it actually took to build a business. That clothing brand ended up failing.
What
But
were
it
you
was
what were you selling?
just like t-shirts, hoodies, shorts, like
And
stuff like that.
Where did you get it? Were you drop shipping it? Did you have
Uh,
inventory?
we drop shipped our first order and then we ordered inventory and like we sold it to, kids at my college and other colleges, but it never got that big. But it really taught me a lot about the Shopify ecosystem, e-commerce, like all kind of things like that.
You're a big sales guy, and I'm kind of wondering, how did you make that first like sale when you were in college with your clothing brand?
Well, in college with your clothing brand is a lot easier than like an enterprise sale. Like in college with clothing brand, you're selling to your friends and friends of friends, and you're starting to build out this network. But yeah, obviously, what I do now
Did it
is far
start
different.
something? Did it start? Because not too long after, like what you're about to say, is that you started doing enterprise sales at Google. Did that start something? The selling in college.
So I think like the idea of entrepreneurship in college and like the idea of building something was pretty interesting to me. And then kind of when I went out into like the real world, so to say, I was very interested in, I guess, like a role where you eat what you kill, essentially. Like obviously you get a salary at Google and all of those things, but I was really motivated by more even than what you eat, what you kill, like more kind of this idea of things being very objective and things being very black and white. Like when you're a software engineer, when you're a product manager, when you work in finance or whatever it might be, when you're super low level and you're first out of college, it's not that objective whether you're doing well, especially when you work at a really big company. You're not shipping that much code or you're not, depending on what the job is. In sales, it's super black and white. You have a quota and you're either exceeding that quota or you're below that
It's a
quota.
lot of pressure, no?
Well, I like that.
You like the pressure.
I like the pressure, but I also like knowing like objectively whether I'm doing well. Like I think that's really enticing to me. And I also like outcomes that aren't linear. So when a lot of jobs that you do, like you work and you get paid and like that's really it. In sales, it's way more exponential in that you could literally go on this path where if you close a lot of business, you make a ton of money. And then in entrepreneurship, it's 100x that. So like I've always been, I guess, intrigued by like high risk, high reward situations, especially in the business world.
Mm-hmm. I've seen like, maybe I've heard, I don't know if this is true, that like some salespeople get paid more than like the CEO.
Well, I mean, it depends at what company.
Depends on what company.
In founder world, as the founder, you're often making the least at the company until there's some sort of outcome. But yeah.
So why is that you like this pressure of sales? Most people would would feel more comfortable with the salary, and like many sales jobs are commission. Do you think like that's a good structure for a sales job to be paid on
No,
commission?
no, no, no. And I've never like worked a job like that. I think obviously like when you work at reputable companies, like that's not the way it works. I
But the
mean, even
argument is that if you're so good at sales, then of course you're going to make sales and of course you're going to make commission. So is that a fair position to put a salesperson in? Because
no.
it's the black and white thing just on
Yeah, yeah.
steroids.
I completely agree with that in terms of like the objectivity to it and like it being black and white and it being like also very clear. I think like at like Google and like larger sales orgs, like you kind of live in this world where you're constantly stacking up against your peers. So you are constantly ranked and you could like see that on a day-to-day basis. So I think that idea is good. But no, even in startups, like people deserve to get paid and all of that. Like even at Pinpoint today, like our salespeople obviously get, you know, base salaries and then commission on top of that.
How did you get your job at Google?
It was actually interesting. So we didn't talk about post college. I didn't work straight. I didn't go straight into Google. I worked at this other company for a few months called CB Insights. My boss from CB Insights, I became really close with in like a short amount of time. And then she went to Google and I joined a couple weeks later.
Do you, so most people, they talk about like Google and these like crazy interviews. Did you have any of that?
Yeah, the interview process is actually really interesting. Obviously, like I had an in, which really helped. Like I was joining a team that my prior boss was leading.
Do you need that? Can you do without that?
Of
Without
course,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, everyone. I actually like. I saw this article the other day, where I think it was the New York Times wrote an article basically saying you can't get into the entertainment industry without nepotism. And this agent at CAA like wrote a whole hit piece about it on LinkedIn, basically saying like, I'm not a nepo baby. I'm a massive agent at CAA. Like that whole idea is really just far off, and I completely agree with that. Like you could do anything. Like you know what I mean. Like people I hate when people have like this victim mentality. And it's like, of course, we all come from like different backgrounds and different life circumstances. But at the end of the day, anyone could do anything. You have your own agency. So you
Why,
could definitely do it without that. And also like, it's not like my, dad's friend was the head of my team at Google. It was my prior boss who I didn't know 3 months earlier. I just built a great relationship with her when I was at my prior company.
why do you think people feel like they can't do it? Why do people feel like they can't get this job? They can't do this certain.
Oh, I mean, there's massive victim mentality, I think, because of social media. I think like to a large extent, people are constantly like comparing themselves to others and they see like, oh, I think a lot of people live in this world where they assume anyone who's successful must have gotten like a lucky break. And does luck go into some things? Like, of course. That being said, like most people who are successful just work really hard.
I also like kind of what I want to get in this interview is like to understand like on social media, on LinkedIn, you see one picture. I kind of want to understand like beyond the picture, more of like the personal, like what sacrifices you made. So like I want to get into that further in the interview. But at Google, like how you were number one salesperson in whatever you're selling. How did you get there? Like where did your sales experience come from? Did like someone teach you it? Did you learn it from a person, experience?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a fair amount at like my prior role at CB Insights. So basically, graduated college, started at this company, CB Insights. On my first day, like literally my first day, I just like went into Salesforce. It shows very clearly who the best reps are. I saw who the best rep was. It was this girl named Alyssa. Shout out to her. I went up to her and I was like, hey, do you mind if I just shadow you for the next 2 weeks? Shadowed her for the next 2 weeks, started doing exactly what she did. And then eventually I was the best rep there in 3 months. And then I, followed my boss to Google. But like, I think people
What was she doing?
Working hard. Like that's what like people get so confused about, especially when it comes to things like sales. And AI has changed this a bit actually, because I think a lot of like the repetitive tasks from a set like within a sales role can be automated now. But people get very confused about like most things in life are down to hard work. And there's actually a very interesting stat where if you have, I think it's 130 or 120 or 130 IQ or higher, which isn't like crazy high.
Have you done an IQ test?
Not since I was like a little kid.
Okay,
like,
fine.
Yeah. And I don't know what the score was. That was just like to get like placed in like this program in elementary school. But anyway, if you have like it was like 120 or 130 or IQ or higher, which like is not genius by any means. After that, success is actually the same across everyone. Like there's no difference in your success level based off of your IQ being 130 or 180. It just comes down to work ethic after that. And like there was like this whole study on that, which I thought was pretty interesting. So essentially, I don't know what percent of the population's above 120 IQ, but I would guess it's like 50%, maybe a little bit lower. And then it's kind of just like the Hunger Games after that and like go work hard.
So how do you do enterprise sales? Like, fine, she's doing hard work. Fine, you're doing hard work. What do you actually do? Are you emailing? Are you networking? Are you
Well,
going to coffees? Like,
yeah,
what are
yeah.
you doing?
2019 and 2026 are completely different. I think AI has completely disrupted the way sales is done just on a high level. Like, and obviously like companies like Artisan, 11X, and a lot of these companies are doing really well because of that. I think actually, if you break it down, what AI has gotten amazing at is repetition. So repetitive tasks. And if you think about it from a sales perspective, I need to go and email someone. I need to go and make a cold call to someone. I need to go and send a LinkedIn DM to someone. I need to kind of do all of that stuff to like set the stage. And then I need to go actually have a conversation like this and go convince them of X, Y, or Z. Everything pre-conversation can be done by AI now. It's repetitive tasks that are super easy to learn and super easy to like train models on those outcomes essentially. And then everything post-conversation is still requires a human. So that's how the world is today. The world back then was just like grind and like send as many personalized emails
Yeah.
to as many people
That's
as
kind of what I'm
possible. So it
doing
was a
right
little
now.
different.
Is that wrong? You know, am I making a mistake?
In what context?
So, I mean, I mainly just do cold email, cold LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then whoever's in the studio that I meet, I reach out to them after. What else should I be doing? What am I doing wrong?
Well, your business is very different in
Mhm.
that you're not trying to build like a hyperscale business. You're trying to build
I do
a
have
big
an
business,
enterprise, a B2B facing product I'm trying to sell.
but you're trying to sell a podcast studio time, right?
Podcast studio time, then we have like these services that are like quarterly, and
Yeah.
those are a little bit
To
bigger.
like companies to like do filming here and stuff like that. What I'm trying to explain is like you're not trying to build for scale. Like you could build a very like nice business with
Mhm.
10 to 50 customers, I would guess, like nothing crazy. Whereas I'm
That'd be
trying to
fine.
build like a venture scale company. So it's a little bit different in terms of like how you think about things. I think from your perspective, very personalized, like getting an in-person coffee with everything is actually like a great motion. Whereas as you try to scale, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I think like personalization still like has a very big, I guess like as a very big like seat at the table. It just, I guess it depends on like what your outcome is,
So
or
it's-
what outcome you're looking for. I
At
guess you could
scale,
say.
what changes? Because I know like there's SDRs, there's BDRs, right? There's a bunch of different roles within like enterprise tech sales. So like, is that structure something that you personally subscribe to, or or is there like something else that you found that works?
Yeah, I mean, you also have to keep in mind like we're still starting
You
up.
took
You know,
you took
we
a sales call with me, which I was super surprised by. You're doing a lot of the sales still.
Yeah. So up until literally a week ago, I closed every single one of our customers, and now we just started building out our sales team at Pinpoint. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like structure and like org chart and things like that, I think like on more of a macro level, there's obviously, and you could argue whether this is good for society, bad for society, like that's a whole nother story. But there's obviously going to be a ton of job disruption. And if you kind of just think about, is your job something that like doesn't require a human touch? Things like responding to emails, things like sending LinkedIn messages. I think those jobs are going to be disrupted. And I think when you look at larger scale companies in 3 to 5 years from now, like the SDR position probably won't exist.
You think it's gonna be like mainly like who's gonna exist? I'm thinking like partnership people, like people that speak with other people and put
Well,
deals
there's
together.
obviously, you're still going to need like enterprise account executives. Like you're still going to need people to go and have, I mean, if we live in a world where like robots are just
Who's gonna
like
respond to
doing,
these emails though? If some robot SDR is sending me messages, and am I gonna respond to that?
I mean, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do it today. We already leverage like AI SDRs, and that's probably how I got a meeting with you. So
Yeah, that's kind of how it worked. So are you better at like selling your own stuff? At that time when you're working at Google, you're selling other people's things.
yeah.
And then you worked at your next company, Rattle. You're like the first employee selling other people's things. So I kind of want to understand like what shifted when you're like, I want to sell my own thing. And then I also want to understand, how did you find that thing that you wanted to sell? Like what came first, the idea that I want to sell something, or the idea that this is a really good business
Yeah. So, I
and
mean,
product?
it's not like, yeah, there's obviously a ton of other things that now I'm doing. And it's less about like what you want to sell. It's more about like what business you want to build. So I was kind of talking a little bit about it at the beginning, but I really kind of go back to this moment where I left Google. I like knew, I guess I knew in the back of my head, like I want to start a company one day, but like I thought maybe like just jumping into that probably wasn't the best way to go about it. Like I thought there was like still more to learn. So I just started meeting with founders, everyone from like just, finished YC to like just starting
This is
YC
during
to like,
Google.
yeah, to like
Okay.
just, raised a few $1 million, like kind of all over the spectrum. I probably met 100 founders. I met this guy named Sahil. He exited a prior company, like pretty successful guy. He was early at this company, Mutiny at the time. It's actually gone on to be pretty successful. And he was like, hey, I'm building this product on the side. It's kind of in like the sales RevOps world. Like I'd love your take on it. So I got connected to him through a mentor of mine. We kind of had a conversation more about the product and like me giving feedback on the product and like if I would use it and things like that. And then I was like, oh, I'm actually like pretty interested in this. We start talking. He then shows me like an MVP of what he built. Like 2 weeks later, we hop on another call and he's like, do you think you could get people to use this? Like he was in India at the time. And he was like, do you think you could like get some people in the US to use this? So I just start cold messaging people on LinkedIn, like nights and weekends when I was still at Google. And I got our first 10 beta customers. And he was like, do you want to join? So we raised a few $1 million. I joined full time and then we went and scaled super quickly. And I actually think of that as like my product. Like Rattle was like my baby. Like I, was very much part of like the founding team of that and like very much kind of saw the vision from zero to a lot. But I also kind of looked around and was like, oh, this whole company building thing, it's super hard. But at the end of the day, like, again, the world was built by people no smarter than you or I. Like, I think it's definitely possible. And that's why I decided to like make the leap and like start this on my own.
What did he give you to sell? Like what was the actual resources he gave you? And then what did
At
you
Rattle?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
there were
then
no resources.
and
It's an
then
early
so
stage startup.
what did you have to build? Were you basically building the product or the business? Like what were you
Oh, no.
what did
So
you
there
need
was a
to do to
product.
sell the beta customers? Like what were you telling them?
Oh yeah. So there was a product, like we had an MVP.
Mhm.
So there was obviously a product to sell, but in terms of like process or anything, there was nothing. I was just like taking my learnings, I guess, from like my past couple of years and was just like, hey, like let me convince people to go and do
And were these
this.
people that you already knew?
No. These were like all cold. Yeah, these are just like cold emails, cold LinkedIn messages that I set up. Literally, like I was working like part time for Rattle while I was still at Google, and the founder Sahil was just like, "Hey, like I'll pay you like a few $1,000 if you could like get us a few beta customers." And I was like, "Cool." Honestly, I just wanted the experience. Like I didn't
Mhm.
really care about anything outside of that.
So how did you decide to leave Google to work at Rattle?
Because he raised like 2.8 million bucks, and I was like, oh, this is actually like a legitimate thing. I knew I wanted to be the first. Like I knew I wanted to be
Was it
part
like
of the
a
founding team.
was it like a
startup.
downgrade technically
What do you
in
mean?
salary or whatever?
Oh, of course, it was a huge downgrade salary wise. You're leaving Google to go to a small startup.
And like your friends or your parents, were they like, what the heck? Why did you leave
Oh,
your
for
Google
sure.
job?
Yeah. I mean, my parents are super supportive and like kind of understood after like I explained it to them. But like, yeah, most people were like, this makes no sense. Like I don't understand like what you're talking about. Like these 3 people are in India. Like it was COVID. They're like, what do you even mean? Like you're gonna be like working from home for them. Like none of it made sense. But then
What did you say? What did you say to them?
I don't know. I've always had like, again, like I've always had a ton of agency. Like I don't really, there's like probably 5 to maybe max 10 people on the planet that I value their opinion from like a personal perspective. And obviously like my parents are some of them and like other people like in my close circle. But after I explained it to those people, they were like, oh yeah, you seem to like know what you're doing. And anyone else's opinion, like I don't really care about, to be honest.
Are there any people that you value and look up to that like not your family, not your friends that like I would know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, so many of like our early investors are people like I really admire. Like I actually like got a lot of our early investors either through like angel investors I'm talking about, not like the funds, either through like cold LinkedIn DMs or like kind of like friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, like random person I like sold to at Google, like, 5 years ago that like was connected on LinkedIn to someone else. And like I built out like a pretty cool cap table doing that. And these are all people that wrote like small checks into the business, but that I get a lot of advice from.
So what kind of advice are you getting from them that
I
you
mean,
think
so
that you think other people didn't get yet that they should?
yeah, I mean, I think the majority of people think about mentorship like completely wrong and like completely out of whack. Like me getting advice from Elon Musk, let's say, is actually fairly useless. Like he's, 10 or more, however many steps you want to say ahead of me. Like what I actually think is far more useful is like people who are 1 to 2 years ahead of me. And that's the people who I like to take advice from. And then in the same realm, like I like to, help people and try to, mentor, whatever you want to
That's
call,
cool.
to people who are like 1 to 2 years behind me. Like, whereas when you're getting advice from people who IPO'd their company for $30 billion, it's like, they're probably forgetting what those early days were like and they're romanticizing it.
I feel a little embarrassed because that's kind of who I go for. I look for like, who's the oldest guy? Who's the guy that looks like he has the most wisdom to share? And then I'm like, I want to hear the wisdom from him. I want his advice.
I completely disagree with that. Like I would go and figure out who is maybe, I don't know what your business is at, but let's say hypothetically, like you've gotten to like 1 million in revenue with this podcast studio and there's someone who's at 5 million in revenue or 10 million in revenue, which is probably like maybe 1 to 2 years ahead of you. Like I would go to that person, like figure out like tactically, what are the things that they did to scale their business? Cause you go talk to this like, person and everyone romanticizes the early days of startups and they're like, oh, like it's not, you know what I mean? Like after you've been through the journey, you start to forget how hard it was at the beginning. And getting like really in the weeds, like tactical advice, I think is pretty helpful.
So I guess let's move on to Pinpoint and how that all started.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to keep on with what you were just saying. Like what were some of those hard parts when you were building your business?
Oh, in the early days?
Yeah.
I mean, we're only like a year in, so it still is the early days.
What are the hard parts? What are you living through right now?
Yeah. I mean, super, super early, like just getting to product market fit is literally like the old adage, like pushing a boulder up a hill. Like it's extremely hard to get to product market fit. Once you get to product market fit, then all the fun problems arise. And I think that's where we are right now is like, there's a lot of fun problems of our plate around scaling and hiring and like all of the kind of things. But at the beginning, it's just like, you're just maniacally focused on product market fit. And like all you're focused on is like building a good product and selling that product. Product for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're 1 year in, we have like nearly 400 brands on the platform.
So what signals do you look for? Number one. And then what steps were you taking to get there?
What do you mean by signals?
Like how, like what you were just saying, like we have all these customers.
Oh, in terms of like, how do you know you're at product market fit?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are literally like pulling you in. Like, I think like that's a big sign. Like when I get on a call with a prospect now, it clicks in 2 minutes normally. Like I go through the product, like, there's obviously some discovery. I go through the product and they're like, yeah, this makes sense, but I have these 7 questions, these 3 questions, these 5 questions. So like that's a big sign. And then the second sign is like very little churn. If people are churning off your platform, you obviously don't have product market fit. In the past, 4 months, we've literally churned 0 customers. And it's like, okay, everyone clearly likes what we're doing now. And some of the updates that we've made to the product like have been very successful.
So like 10 months ago when you were on a sales call, were people understanding what you were trying to tell them?
Yeah, our vision's always been super clear. So people were understanding what we were trying to tell them, but the product didn't necessarily back up the vision. Like you're overselling at the beginning because you're like, especially as the founder, you're selling like this big vision of like how you see the world and like how you see kind of you helping their business and like what the world potentially looks like if they had this amazing version of your product that doesn't necessarily exist yet. And then the product is sometimes a little underwhelming at the beginning. Whereas now I think actually like we're potentially underselling how powerful the product is.
Is it the product or like the trust? Like right now you have the trust. Like you have some massive customers. I don't know if you can name some of them that you
Yeah.
but you have some big customers, like that speaks for itself. Like The Rock's using your platform. Who else is using your platform?
Who is it? That you said?
The Rock has his like
Oh
his
his deodorant brand's on our
deodorant brand.
platform. Jake Paul's deodorant brand, Kylie Jenner's electrolyte brand, but also like big enterprises like Polymarket, GoPuff, Kalshi, and then a lot of like consumer brands as well. Everyman Jack, Represent Clothing, Overtime. So yeah, we're pretty wide. Like I
But
think
how do you even do that? You're a startup. I assume like who was your first one? Who was your first impressive sale?
Overtime was one of our first customers. So that definitely helped like put us on the map a little bit. They're obviously one of the biggest names in
So how
social.
did you do that?
Getting into Overtime,
Yeah.
a friend of a friend. Yeah, like I was like honestly at the beginning, you're having people take bets on you. Again, like very immature product at the beginning. Like you're having people take these like massive bets on you. So you almost need like a warm way in. I was able to like warm intro my way or just like knowing people, like networking to our first like 30 to 50 customers. Then from there, they liked the product. Referrals got us to maybe like our 100 to 150 customers. And now we built out like super scalable systems. But at the beginning, it's all like, to your point, it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of like, oh, like I know this person who uses it. Like Overtime intros me to, I mean, a good example is the head of social at Overtime or like social lead at Overtime has now had 2 jobs since. He's taken Pinpoint to every job.
Where did he take it to?
Jake Paul's deodorant company, W, which then got us Jake Paul's betting brand, Better. And now he's at this company, Swish Breaks, which is like this pretty cool like card breaking company.
That's pretty awesome. So these companies that like are, or these brands that you didn't know, how did you sell those?
So yeah, first 6 months of the business, networking, referrals, like that was basically how we got our first like 150 customers.
Where did you network? In New York, where do you network? And what does that mean?
The term networking, everyone thinks about this very differently. I think most networking events are like a massive waste of time and like just a great way to waste 3 hours on a Monday night. Like if I'm being completely honest.
Did you know that when you first started networking?
When I was like 22, probably.
Were you going to
but,
these events?
I mean, of course, everyone is at like that age. Like you want to be in like rooms that people are like more impressive than you are. Like you want to be the least impressive person in rooms at the beginning, and you still want to do that like throughout your career. But I think like a lot of these networking events are nonsense. Intimate networking events are great in my opinion, like 10-person dinners. Even like a lot of people are doing now, like run clubs, Pilates classes, like stuff like that are like super intimate and like you actually get to know everyone. Like we host a lot of those now.
Would I find
we'll
you
host,
at a
like, 10-person
Pilates event?
Every once in a while, if there's good customers there.
That's awesome. And what about like getting into these rooms that are with people that are more impressive than you? I've been in those rooms, but like a handful of times. And every single time has been like huge adrenaline spike. I'm like, oh my God, my network just like crazy. How do you find those opportunities? Or like, let's say like a venture, I mean, you're invested in, so like, I guess they put events together, which is really cool. But like, how do you get into those kind of events? Do you have to know somebody?
Just like in general?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if you have any insight, but would be helpful.
You're gonna like, I don't know. Like, let's take a step back. Honestly, 90% of people probably will never find themselves in those rooms, and like that's okay. And you're just kind of going through the motions. But the 10% of people that like are going to find themselves in those rooms, it's like what you do after you essentially find yourself in those rooms. Like you get to chat with great people, and then you need to actually like stay in touch with them and like build relationships. Like after I go to a 20-person dinner of super impressive people, I try to figure out who are the 3 who, 1, will be most helpful to my business, obviously, but 2, just like longer term thinking, like who are people that you actually want to build relationships, go get coffee with them, go get lunch with them, dinner, whatever it might be, and build like actual genuine connection with people, and then go see, don't look at it a transaction, but like see what you could do for each other.
Mm-hmm. You have some like impressive investors behind you. How did you get to them? How did you find them?
I mean, it obviously depends on who. Early
Or
days
did they
of
find you?
yeah, no, early days of Pinpoint. Well, a lot found us kind of, after, but like early days of Pinpoint, we've raised 4 million to date, but like we kind of like raised it over time, and raised it, over the year of the business or so. But super early days of Pinpoint, it was just like honestly cold LinkedIn messaging people and trying to get intros to like friends of friends and like building a strong angel base that way. Like we really focused on that to start and just raised like a few hundred K from like really impressive people. That allowed us to like raise venture money as well.
Who was the first check?
First check into the business, it was actually a small, like a smaller venture fund called Antler. Not smaller check venture fund, I guess you
Mhm.
could say. They invest in a lot of companies. But that was our first check into the business. And then got a lot of angels from there.
How do you convince someone to just give you money? Were you making money at that point? Like, did you like? I would feel if I wasn't making money or something, I would feel like a ton of pressure to have to pay them back. Or how does it work? Do they just give you the money and it's just like whatever happens, happens?
Well, they're not investing like at the beginning, like people aren't investing in the company, they're investing in you. So they're investing in like, do they believe in you? Do they believe in your vision? Do they believe that you will be able to execute your vision? Like that's what people are writing checks for and underwriting at the beginning.
But
And
that's
then as you
crazy. They're
grow,
like investing on like vibes. They're just
they're
like
not
this
investing
guy.
on vibes. They're investing on, do you have what it takes to go build a big business?
Mhm.
And have you proven in the past that like you potentially have the chops to do it? Like, I mean, I was the first employee at a startup that we went and raised 28 million. Like I was a big part of that. Like obviously there's a lot of experience that goes into it, but yes, to your point, you're also, investing in how people make you feel and like how confident are you in this person to go and execute what they're saying? A lot of people have really great visions and really great ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Like, can you actually go and execute?
I saw I see like this conversation online of like since like VC is huge right now, maybe the biggest it's ever been. Um People are saying like VC is like a scam. VC's like do you subscribe to that or you hear some of the
What
some
does
of
that
the
even mean?
because like they're just investing a ton of money into companies that maybe don't have a product, maybe don't have anything, maybe don't have revenue, and then they buy it, they acquire it, and like money just changes pockets. Um, or if you're the founder, you end up getting screwed because you end up not owning your company, getting kicked out. Um, do you think VC is like an overall good thing for the world,
Well, first of all, yeah,
or do
on
you
a
think a founder should take VC money?
it depends on the founder and it depends on the company that you're building. On a macro level, VC is an incredible thing for entrepreneurship, obviously. Like you can't build Facebook, you can't build Google, you can't build Microsoft, you can't build Tesla, et cetera, without VC money. Like it would be impossible to build companies of that size. They just require a ton of capital. Should the person who's trying to build a agency to 10 million in revenue and try to sell it, raise venture money? Probably not. Like that's not a great, that's not a great use case for venture money. But if you're trying to build a venture scale outcome, like a lot of the times you need venture money.
How big do you think Pinpoint can get?
Pinpoint's like 100 billion ARR opportunity, like very easily. Like genuinely, I mean, think about who our customer base is right now. We're nearing 400 customers. We have GoPuff, one of the biggest delivery platforms in the world.
How did
Polymarketing.
you get them?
GoPuff.
Yeah,
GoPuff was actually from a cold LinkedIn DM of a VA I had in the
really.
Philippines, which is crazy, which kind of shows that, hey, you could go scale this with AI now.
And
But
then you were saying the next one was Polymarket.
yeah,
How did you find them?
a friend of a friend, like a brand that trusted us, introduced me to them.
So it's mainly referral.
At the beginning it was, but no, GoPuff was a cold LinkedIn DM. But anyway, like if you kind of think about how wide we've gone, GoPuff delivery, Polymarket, trading market, Prize Picks, one of the biggest betting platforms in the world, Everyman Jack, biggest soap company,
That's crazy.
Slate Milk, biggest chocolate milk, like Nut Pods, Coffee Creamer, all the beauty brands that you would see in Sephora, Overtime, biggest sports media company in the world, brands that have been built by Alex Earl, Kylie Jenner, Jake Paul, The Rock. Like we've gone so wide, and I think in the next 24 months we get Delta Airlines on, Marriott, the Lakers, like every consumer brand, JP Morgan Chase, like every consumer brand on the planet will eventually use Pinpoint. And if we do that, I mean, it's an absurdly big opportunity.
To date, what was like, was there one, I know like parents can't choose favorites, but like, was there one a brand or company or account that uses Pinpoint that was just like, whoa, you were not expecting?
Oh,
Or that just hit you because you love
no,
them or
I mean
something?
now today, like I have like so much, like genuinely, like every conversation that we go into, I assume it's going to close. Like our product is so powerful now that it's gotten to the point where like I think someone's an idiot if they don't use Pinpoint genuinely, and like I think you should believe that as the founder. But yeah, like going back, GoPuff was a really cool one because they essentially came to us and they were like, after like we had initial conversations, they were like, we like your product, but we're actually looking for X. And it was like kind of like a smaller feature that ended up turning into like this very cool thing we do, but a smaller feature that like we didn't have. And we were just like, what if we build that for you guys? Like, we'll put you on an annual contract with an opt-out clause if anything isn't to your liking. And we just went and built that for them. And now it's used by all of our customers. So those stories are always like fun and cool when you like actually have a customer tell you something that is insightful for your business, and then you go and build it and it scales. So that was cool. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, there's so many cool ones.
I heard something that you just said earlier, and I'm wondering if this is like a hack.
Yeah.
But you're like manifesting the sale before when you get on the call. Because usually when I get on a sales call, I'm like, this person is probably not going to buy from me. Let me try to do my best to show how cool this is and how they really need this. You're going in there and saying like, you're buying from me. And then like, if they don't buy from you, what's your reaction? Like,
Well, that's because we built an incredible product, and I like truly believe in the product. Like as a founder, like I'm more of a sales focused CEO, and there's more product focused CEOs. And I have two amazing co-founders that are, you know, way smarter than I am and incredible at product and engineering. But if you don't believe in your product, like you're done, like from the beginning. Like at the end of the day, like the reason I go into every call thinking everyone is going to buy is because the amount of value that I've already seen for nearly 400 brands that do use our product, and like truly great brands who aren't, you know, doing us a favor or anything like that. Like they're getting X amount of value out of the product, which is why they're paying us thousands of dollars every month to go and utilize it. So that's why like I have the confidence to go into every call and think like, oh yeah, like this person's a moron if they don't buy the product. And I truly believe that because one, it's an incredible product, and two, if I don't have that confidence, you know, none of my team will.
I got to start believing in myself, in the product. That would help a ton. People say like, if you want to give off a certain energy, you just got to think that you're giving off that energy in your head, and then you'll probably give that energy off.
Yeah, and manifestation is good and bad in a lot of different ways. Like just because you believe something's going to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like if you don't put in the work. But if you say I'm going to do X and then you put in the work that will get you to X outcome, then when you go into that call or that meeting or whatever it might be, you should believe that that outcome's going to happen because you went and put in the work. You didn't just, you know, wake up one day and say, I'm going to build $1 billion company. Like you actually went and put in the work.
Your co-founders, where did you find them? Like, how did you meet them?
Yeah, one of them, like lifelong friend from like growing up, went to college together. We started that clothing brand together actually. And then he was employee number 4 at Rattle. So we've worked together for a while. And then other one just met like networking in the city, super smart kid. Went to Columbia and then was at this YC startup as like a founding engineer for a bit. And then we convinced him to be our third co-founder.
Have there ever been any disagreements?
Of course, if there's no disagreements, like you're doing things wildly wrong.
3 co-founders is like a lot. Like, how do you handle that?
I actually think it's incredible. I think it's like our superpower because between our 3 co-founders, we're A+ at everything. Like I'm not A+ at everything and my co-founders aren't A+ at everything, but between the 3 of us, there's nothing we're not A+ at. And I think that's actually like a massive win and like a massive superpower for the business. And when we have disagreements, obviously like, you know, we figure out what the best answer is and we talk through it. But so like from that aspect, like, you know, there's that, I guess, like wrinkle there. But no, I think like having co-founders that are amazing at what you're not amazing at is like the biggest superpower in business building.
Is there like a deal that like really stood out to you that was like maybe you weren't going to get it and then you got it? Like what was like I kind of want to hear some of these cool stories of selling because you're saying it so casually, which I think is also very cool.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you were to go back to like a couple months back when these were novel to make these big sales, I kind of want to hear these stories.
Yeah. Um, there's nothing like that crazy. I think like so like, I guess to just take a step back, the last 10 years of SaaS, specifically like when it came to consumer brands, were very much like tools that expanded your channels. So it was like, oh, I want to send more emails to consumers, or I want to send more text messages to consumers, or I want to send postcards to consumers, or like whatever it might be. It was like very channel based. Now, whether it's in consumer or like selling to consumer brands or selling to, B2B companies, it's very much essentially like, how do we help take jobs off your plate? Like that's what people are looking for now. So we very much exist in that world of like, we are taking specific roles out of companies' workload. So, if you're a social media team and you have 10 things on your plate on a week to week basis, we're taking at least 5 of those off your plate. And that gets a little interesting in terms of like, oh, maybe a specific person was focused on that. So like that aspect of things makes deals interesting. And like, we sometimes just have to speak through those. But I also think those are the most valuable companies right now. And like the most valuable companies over the next like 5 to 10 years will be job replacers.
Wow. So you're like getting rid of all like the social media interns.
Well, I think like not more than I hope we're doing more strategic work than just interns, but yeah, I think just like overall, like people should start looking at software platforms as an extension of their team, not like a tool that they need to log into every single day.
So you had like the Simon and KSI invest in you. Have you seen any like benefit from these creators that have invested in you?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it adds credibility. We got their networks are massive. They're getting a ton of brand deals.
They introduce you to people and they give you
Yeah,
brand
yeah. I
deals?
mean, we're working with very similar brands. We also work with all their brands, whether it's like their clothing brand, their food brand, whatever it might be. But yeah, I mean, they're invest in today's world. You were talking about venture capital earlier. Like VCs should provide more than just money, and the majority of them do. All the ones that we work with do. But if someone's just providing you capital with like no other benefit, like you could probably find a better fund, whether it's a celebrity fund or just a regular fund.
So I guess last question. I'm 23. I'm building a business. You've been 23. You're now 29. What would you want to know when you're like building, when you're starting out, when you're, I guess you're in enterprise sales right then. Like, what would you want to know from future you?
Yeah, my biggest advice to people is you don't need to be great at everything. Make your A's A pluses and let someone else do your B's and C's. To my point about finding 2 incredible co-founders that are great at what I'm not great at, find your superpower, lean into that superpower, and then hire great teams, find great co-founders to do everything that maybe you're not the best at.
Well, thank you, Joshua, for coming on. I think I'm going to take some of the sales advice and it's like a little pep talk for me for today. Hopefully I can make a sale or two today.
Yeah.
And appreciate you coming on and
Yeah.
sharing
No,
your
thanks
story.
for having me.